Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Minutes with Mike. I have the pleasure of having Emma Powell, the CEO and co-founder of Rebel 360 with us this morning. Hello, Emma.
Hello, Mike.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I'm really excited to talk about Rebel 360 and your journey. So let's jump right into it. How did it all begin? Tell me the story. How did it start? Where did you bring it from? Where has it come to?
Okay, so around 14 years ago, I left Clifford Chance and I started work for an agency, and I started focusing on retention, which was kind of unheard of at the time. People were obviously focused on the acquisition, top of funnel. I came along and was looking at things from the bottom up. So slowly I started to introduce that across the e-commerce platform with clients that we worked with. And then when COVID hit, all of the clients that I was working with just accelerated because their Shopify store was optimized. They had their ecosystem in place. So it was an exciting time for those clients. But then around 3 years ago, I met Grace and we decided to set up Rebel 360 together as female founders. And we haven't looked back. I brought across that very strong bottom line, flip the funnel ethos, and continued starting from the bottom of the funnel and looking up, which kind of makes sense, right? When you're looking at organic growth and the holistic nature of the e-commerce system. So that's kind of where we started.
I forgot to point out the obvious too. Thank you so much for wearing our swag, the Minutes with Mike shirt.
Pleasure. I like being all pimped up.
You know, client retention in my world, right? So in the world of fulfillment and distribution, and we have a lot of clients that we work with alike, and client retention is everything, right? Like, because everybody that's watching this is probably involved in selling at some point. They're either running a company or they're selling for a company or they're handling accounts for a company. The retention process of getting clients in the door, comfortable with the system and how it works, and then making sure that you are looking forward to solving their problems and issues is something we work really hard with at PIMS to make sure that clients that join us aren't just here for a project specific send, they're with us long term. How do you guys at Rebel, I know you really focus a lot of attention on that for your clients. Give me a little bit about a deep dive on that too, on how you train them or how you work with them to aggressively retain those clients.
Well, I think that, you can really review brand guidelines, you can really do a deep dive, but it's only after time spent with the client that you really get to understand the brand and get under the skin of the brand. So, I mean, we do projects with startups from 0 to 6 months, and we do get to really understand the brand. But I'd say Studio 10, for instance, which is Grace's brand, we're like 3 years in and we're still having fun and discovering the brand. But now I can wake up every day and go, right, okay, I know Studio 10 inside and out. And I really feel that there has to be a relationship. So email has to be, you learn about that brand over time. You learn about that brand as you're in the marketing calendar day in and day out, in their flows, day in, day out. And I think that's the only way that you really get to understand and can create that sustainable growth. I feel like if you were just doing implementations all the time, yes, you can get the design and you can get the brand tonality, but it really develops after a time spent in the marketing calendar and getting to know the client, because that's half the battle for us is is the marketing calendar, and working 2 to 3 to 4 weeks ahead of schedule with every single client. And we do that with bi-weekly meetings and quarterly strategy meetings, and we basically map out exactly what that looks like. And it takes time to develop that relationship.
You use terms like growth acceleration, but you actually mean them, right? Like you're driving growth through the knowledge of these clients. I feel like all too often in our world, especially when selling to different types of corporations or working with them day to day, a lot of vendors will just sort of say what they need to say to get that job done. But you take the time to get to know these clients deeply and well so that you can help drive that growth. I know there's a lot of digital marketing companies. Tell me, what's the real separator with you guys as compared to other folks?
I think it's because we're genuinely retention experts. So we look at the ecosystem of e-commerce. We don't just say, right, we can do your emails. Because if you're just doing emails, that means you're literally not doing hypersegmentation, because the only way you can do that hypersegmentation is if the apps that you have in place are the right apps and are native integrations, so that you have those data points. And if you don't have those data points, you just can't do that growth acceleration. So we're quite, what's the word? We will do an audit with the client and we're straight down the middle. We're literally like, right, this is what you need to do, and we can help you, but we need to put these apps in place, and this is how it looks. And sometimes clients aren't ready for that. And if not, then, we'll wait. We'll say, right, come back to us, because we can't turn the dial unless we have the e-commerce ecosystem synced. And that's essentially, there's no great secret. It's about the data points. So we spend a lot of time researching apps and making sure that the native integration, or A, that they have native integration, but B, they're innovative as well. So for instance, your loyalty app, if you've got subscription, should be talking to each other and then talking to Shopify and Klaviyo. So if you leave a review, for instance, you might want to reward them with points. You might want to reward them with discounts. Maybe we A/B test it, but you have to have that ability to sync. And that's what we do. We spend a lot of time on tech, researching tech, and then we pull that into play, and then we get the results.
I know that you emphasize big time authenticity in this world, right? We're entering into, well, we're not entering, we're in it, the AI, chat GPT world, as it sort of crosses into email marketing and really all of our worlds. How do you look forward? Like, what do you think the next steps are in your world, and how is that sort of interacting with your day to day?
Well, I suppose twofold really there. AI is phenomenal in terms of how we use it with the apps that we work with. So for instance, the quiz, before AI, we were having to do everything manually. So if you imagine you have like 10 different answers in a quiz, we were having to build that out like literally like this in Klaviyo to kind of anticipate each answer. Whereas now with AI, it's completely dynamic. So it's one email as a response, and then the AI is reading all the replies and responses. Things like that, it's the efficiency, and it helps us save time. That's where AI is helping. And also it's helping with obviously the innovation and personalization. Every single quarter, there's a new side to an app, and the race is on to kind of make that user journey as sophisticated as possible. In terms of ChatGPT and how we use it internally, if you were to ask ChatGPT to write anything for you, I could tell straight away if it's ChatGPT. So for instance, if I see anyone on LinkedIn, if I see the word uplift or elevate or unlock, I know straight away that it's from ChatGPT. But the way that we use it is sometimes it's just helpful to condense a lot of information. So that's where it helps us with, say for instance, we've got 3 different paragraphs, and we use that to kind of, but we never use it ever for write me an email. Never. So we're always looking at brand tonality and pulling that through, looking at the emails in our inbox that have landed, emails that we know have turned the dial from our clients and other people's clients as well. But AI is fundamentally making it so that we can work a little bit quicker, and also making it much more personalized for the customer. So at the moment, it's only a good thing.
We've been asked several times how it's sort of intersecting in our world at PIMS, right? With customized influencer sendouts. And I think you hit it on the head, the speed and accuracy in which we'll be able to customize this distribution so that
Yeah.
Emma gets the right makeup shade, and Mike gets a different size shirt or a different color of this, and a handwritten note card. All this customization makes all the difference in the world. AI is going to help speed that up.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask you about a memorable campaign, but when you were talking about Chat GPT, it reminded me this new world that we're entering comes with the people that are used to it. Just like you said, you can tell just by a few words how it's been sort of created, right? Whether it's a Chat GPT or somebody. I tried to help my son write a college essay the other day. So I, of course, didn't tell him, but I threw some of it into Chat GPT, and in 2 minutes, he's like, "You PT this." I can tell by some of the words, and I was dead caught. So, it's funny how that works, but it's true. As we enter it and people get more hip to how it works, you have to be able to point those specific things out when you're working with clientele. Tell me a little bit about a memorable campaign. I hear it on my end, the wonderful work that Rebel 360 does, and certainly our clients tout working with you long term and are just over the moon excited. But tell us about a memorable campaign that we can share with folks on where you guys came in and how it worked.
There are many, Mike.
Sure.
I would say one thing that I am quite proud of is Black Friday 2023. We did a campaign for a brand called Balance Me. And it's, you look at the learnings from the year before with Klaviyo and you look at their top 10 kind of ideas so that you can stand out and ahead of the crowd. And we work with brands that are holistic, are wellness, health from the inside out, skin health. You can't do it that gimmicky or any clickbait or lots of gamification, because you have to be careful, because you want it to be authentic. So we came up with a campaign, and it's as simple as this. Do you like surprises? Do you like surprises? Yes. Okay, well, leave us your first name and email address, and we'll keep you posted over the next 4 days with some, but our best offer is this, but there will be other surprises along the way. And it worked really, really well. Because it wasn't, obviously there's a slight element of clickbait there because it's an incentive, but it was just amazing. And we made the pop-up full screen and it just blew up, and we did really well for the brand that year.
Yeah.
So we've got to cop that this year. So I'm already starting to think about Black Friday and campaigns and how we can kind of generate those for each brand that's with us.
Your clientele, so obviously you work internationally, right? Because you're working on the UK side and certainly the US side. Your clientele, maybe you could talk a little bit about that too. What are your target, like what are the specific types of clients that would work best with Rebel 360?
Oh my gosh. So aside from the industry that we tend to focus on, which is beauty, health and wellness, the brands that we see the most success with are those that are ready to accept retention. So if a brand comes to us and it's like, "Oh, I've heard about retention and I know I need to do it." Okay, we will partner with you and we go through the whole process. But at the end of the month, if they're still, we've got to hit our target, our acquisition is this, and I've got to hit this amount of money, and let's just send out emails, please, because we need to hit our target. That's really hard for us because we generally hit targets well, I say generally, we do hit our KPIs. We're in the top 5% of our results for Klaviyo agencies. But what's important to us isn't just that Klaviyo owned revenue, which invariably is between 35 and 60%, depending upon their top of funnel activity. But for us, it's about the KPIs as well. It's about the open rates, the click rates, the average order value, and that's what drives sustainable growth. So sometimes we find that clients just aren't quite ready to accept that we can't just blast out all because you'll damage your list. And Gmail make it quite tricky these days. We use Litmus to make sure that every email that goes out lands, but Gmail might reduce the size of what email can be sent out that week. So it's a constant balancing act to get that email optimized and landing in an inbox and not be clipped. So I think that clients that appreciate that sustainably their growth will look like this are better than the clients that need to go like that. So it's just, for us, obviously, Klaviyo owned revenue, if we see a dip, we're like, right, why has that happened? Let's go through all the flows. Let's A/B test. Let's do this. Let's do that. There's plenty of low hanging fruit that we can bring to the table. But fundamentally, it's the KPIs alongside the Klaviyo owned revenue. It isn't just the Klaviyo owned revenue. And, we can't blast all because it will damage deliverability. And then what clients then see is that their sales drop because their deliverability's dropped because they wanted to blast. So that's what I would say, that we have to educate when someone comes on board, and it takes around 6 months, but they will get 50% generally of their revenue coming from email, but they'll also get with us really healthy benchmarks.
You're going to know this answer better than most because this is your world, and just knowing you and doing some research on the company, I know it's big with the data and analytics. So there are people that I've spoken to on Minutes with Mike that are all about the data and analytics, right? They're like, this is going to tell the story. This is going to help us, point in the direction we want to go with the spend, the KPI, all that stuff. Others feel like sometimes it's a little bit over the top, right? Following too much of the data and analytics could mislead you into downgrading creativity, right? Like we work a lot with clients that are doing custom packaging, that are doing spend outside the normal box of distribution. And they want to see if it's worth it, right? So they tend to follow the flow of data and analytics. And I know there's a lot of these companies that actually sponsor these data and analytics surveys that they will send out to folks to actually test this ROI. Maybe you could talk to that a little bit, because I know, on your world, that's really important. Tell me how that coincides with reports back to your client and how that works.
Well, I think I appreciate what you're saying, but in our industry, it's all about metrics. Sometimes after, say, 2 weeks of setting a flow live, a client will say, well, actually, can we change it? Because actually, we'd like to try a different tact. And I always say we can't change it straight away. You have to let it run for at least 4 weeks, because knee-jerk reactions in retention are not great.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
you're kind of thinking I think, well, actually, I think isn't good enough. It has to be led by data. So everything we do every month is led by data. That's not to say that you can't be creative in the emails. That's a different thing, and that's also something that we're really passionate about, that you have the right amount of copy, that the copy's landing, there's the right amount of curiosity, scarcity, and then the asset design is premium. That's really important. But at the end of the day, our recommendations for those flows are based solely on metrics.
Makes total sense. What about trends, right? So we talked a little bit about AI and Chat GPT, and these are the, up and coming trends. We're already embedded in it. Nobody knows exactly where that's going, but it's going to be a great thing. What about on your end? Are you seeing any trends? Are clients asking forward thinking as to what's the next big thing, or, how you guys can get involved in this or that? Are you seeing any trends developing outside of that, that AI sort of world?
I mean, outside of trends in the beauty, health, and wellness industry, for us, we just are looking at the apps, and obviously AI is playing a huge part of that at the moment. But trends are very much retention. I mean, the trend is get to know your customer. And for us, that's a huge trend for 2024, because only 18% of companies are actually focusing on retention. 46% are still focusing on acquisition. So that tells you that, that's a huge part of a trend that companies still, I say trend, retention's been around for a long time, but to do retention well in e-commerce in 2024, not many people are doing it. So I think that's a big enough trend in itself.
Yeah, there you go. We originally met through Inacos, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yes,
And
which I've just got back from.
was it wonderful?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It
I
was
heard great
so
things. I
good.
didn't get a chance
So
to
good.
go this time, but I remember David
Yeah.
Silbergleit, who was our CEO, had come back from, I guess, the original one he had met you with. And he calls me in his office and he said, you have to see this cool thing. You call it the loyalty loop, but it's this excellent solar system. And in it, you had built sort of a partnership, a planetoid sort of circling it. I'm going to show it on the screen, right?
Yeah.
We don't see it right now, but when we post this, I'm going to show it on the screen for everybody to see. It is fabulous and fantastic, and it makes you think so deeply about everything from partnerships to sales to, client retention to growth accelerated. It really buys into everything you're saying here. How'd you come up with that? That was really cool.
So they're different solar systems, right? But the one that we're looking at is the retention e-commerce solar system. So I just wanted to figure out how to place so that when I'm talking to a client, sometimes it can just completely, your e-commerce solar system, what does that mean? So we wanted to create something that made sense, not just for the client, but for behind the scenes as well. So that when we're talking with third-party apps and partners, so I started talking with David and we came up with a slightly different solar system for what you guys do. And then we kind of brought that all together. And I think I've created a couple now. And one of them is on a website. But we did have fun creating that. But yeah, it just makes sense that everything is interconnected and everything is 360, right? Because it has to go around and sync.
I'll let you in on a little secret. I printed out a copy and I cut it out and I hung it on the wall next to my desk. Every once in a while, I just
I
sort of
really
over. So I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, it did take a while for us to figure it out. We kept kind of going back to the drawing board because it was a way of explaining the new retention, because it's not so much it's flipping the funnel, but at the same time, everything does have to talk to each other. Otherwise, it's not an omni-channel and it doesn't work.
I wanted to ask you about you, right? So, we work with a lot of women-run organizations, wonderful organizations like the CEW, Beauty Matter, and certainly partnering with folks like you. One of the other hats you wear is entrepreneur, right? You are also, aside from running a business, you had to come up with the idea and carry it through all the ups and downs and the pluses and the negatives and the good days and the bad days. Somebody's going to be watching this that wants to start their own company and they've been told don't do it. They've been told it's a bad idea. They've been told you can't afford that. You've been told that nobody's going to buy that. Give me a couple of minutes on that, because I'm fascinated when I talk to people that have started their own companies, entrepreneurs, because you have to be a special breed of person to be able to navigate that. And it tells a lot about the person and the companies that they run to be able to trudge through that. Tell me about your journey a little bit with that.
Well, honestly, the best bit of advice I would give someone is don't be frightened of failure, because as an entrepreneur, you're expected to wear so many different hats and you have to realize your strengths and weaknesses. And I've had to learn about management of people. I've had to learn about finances. And there are so many things and so many balls in the air at any one time. It's about asking for help. I've now got a fabulous new FD and a chief operating officer, and they are wonderful. And they just really help. Up until then, Grace and I were just doing it on our own. And there are so many lessons that I learned up to that point, and there are many more lessons that I will learn. I think it's just never giving up, which is really obvious, but there are so many moments. There are highs and there are lows, and basically, as long as the experience is outweighed by the highs, I think that's a good thing. But yeah, not being frightened to fail and to learn by your mistakes. I learn all the time, and I kind of question myself sometimes about, is this the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I just go and, consult? But I'm loving the fact that, I'm 47. I don't need a massive agency. What I'm really loving is the thought leadership, the mentoring, and doing really well, being really good at what we do. That to me is my success and the success of our team. So yeah, I don't know whether that's any help or not.
Yeah, that's really well said. And it hits home too, because with my journey, right, I didn't start the company, but I came in at a very young age when it was just starting out. And then, it's the same landscape. You roll with the punches. There are days where you're like, how are we going to be able to do this? And there are days where you're like, this is fantastic. Everything's great, and everywhere in between. But you have to be, strong in here and strong in here to be able to navigate this. That's why it's always great to partner with folks like you, Rebel 360 and the like, that really sort of blaze that path. And as a woman, especially coming out of the month of the woman that we just celebrated, it's really fabulous to connect with you and your team and all the great stuff that you guys do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
I wanted to finish with our lightning round today. What this is, and you're not ready for this because I didn't share it with you, but it's 8 or 10
Oh my God.
quick questions. It's a this or that, or a what would you rather type thing. And I just want you to tell me what comes to your head. The first thing that pops in your brain.
Okay.
Are you ready, Emma Powell?
I am.
Travel by plane or by train?
Plane.
A comedy club or a concert?
Comedy club.
Swimming pool or hot tub?
Swimming pool.
Classic music or rock music?
Classic music.
Bungee jumping or skydiving?
Bungee jump.
Here's a great one. Call or text?
Call.
Roller
Always.
co- roller coasters or water slides?
Roller coaster.
And the last one, do it yourself or hire a professional?
Ooh. Oh, that depends. I mean, if I'm painting a house, I'd hire a professional. Um, if I'm doing an email, I'll do it myself.
I agree. I agree. Emma Powell, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate, getting to know you and Rebel 360. And again, for the folks that aren't aware of them, they're a wonderful company. Look them up, reach out to her. She's wonderful and they're great. Thank you again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.